All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's another Thursday afternoon, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Launch Hour webinar series. My name is Paul Erubami. Those of us who are joining for the first time, we do this every Thursday, and we try to give back by discussing some very important concepts, skills, principles that will help us be better at work and better in our lives. And today it's a very interesting topic, crisis management. We're going to be looking at human factors that result in workplace crisis. And it's quite elaborate, starting from the risk that we should be conscious of as we go about our work from day to day. As usual, I would like to remind us that the entire series of courses we take on the Launch Hour are all available on our learning management portal, facilitymanagement.training, facilitymanagement.training. So our learning management portal. Go to that portal, you can browse through more than 150 courses, and you can take on any of them, get all the materials, and download a certificate when you complete the course and take the quizzes. So that's something we have on offer. There are a lot of soft skills, workplace productivity skills, HR skills, leadership skills, desktop productivity skills, interpersonal relationship skills, and so on and so forth that you need for success in the modern workplace, all packaged as courses you can take in 1 or 2 days and earn a certificate from Max-Migold Limited from taking them. And they are all very cheap. Find some of these courses like crisis management going for under 20,000 naira, for example, and you have that certificate to prove your knowledge and skill in this particular area. Please also note that the Facility Management Mastercraft Diploma Batch 22 starts on the 19th of August, and we are in the final stages of recruitment admissions into that program. We have a bonanza running throughout the month of July. The virtual training has been reduced by 100,000 from 500,000 to 400,000. And this is to enable more people to take advantage of the opportunity. The physical training is now 750,000, but in this month of July rather, you can get a 150,000 naira discount on the physical class. So please take advantage of this. Talk to your colleagues. If you come in as a company, 10 or more staff, you can get all of our training. Any training you package take as a package in the FMMC range of options for half price, which is a 50% scholarship permanently available for those who come in groups of 10 or more. Okay. We look forward to seeing everyone who have not taken the program. And for those of you who have taken the program, I know that you are having a great time associating with your colleagues at the alumni level and making progress with your career. You can also take short courses like the ones we're taking here today online to further increase your, sharpen your souls and deliver with more focus and excellence in whatever you do in the workplace. Okay, so looking at crisis management today, it's important to consider the negative things that happens around us instead of seeing them as things that we didn't have control over. We should be able to have an eye for imagining some things that are not good might happen. And if they do happen, how do we respond? How do we react to them, right? It's important that we have that open mind to investigate, interrogate situations around us so that we can take decisions that are going to help us prevent negative situations from happening around us, especially in the workplace. Now, when we talk about crisis, we are looking at being able to respond appropriately, right? So identification, planning, having the right processes in place, and then training in the practice and implementation of our crisis management plan are things that will help us overcome the challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis. And just looking at crisis as an issue, I'm sure in facility management, we would have had all kinds of, examples of crisis, physical assets, environmental, weather and climatic conditions, financial issues, all kinds of things can become root causes of crisis. But our focus today is more on how to manage people, how to get people to manage situations, the kind of crises that are people-focused. Because according to Albert Einstein, those who manage their way into a crisis are not necessarily the right people to manage their way out of the crisis, right? So we want to learn to prevent the crisis. And if it does happen that we find ourselves in the middle of a crisis, we have a way, set of tools, the means to get ourselves out of it, okay? So a company that anticipates a crisis and prepares for such an event is better able to avoid negative situations completely. Or if the situation occurs, they are better able to manage it. This is just a fact of life. If you are able to prevent, just think about it, plan for, and then you don't have those crises. It's not a good thing to have repeated bouts of crisis and then become good at getting past overcoming the crisis. You have to start from trying to make sure the crisis don't occur, don't come in. I live in a temperate environment, for example, and there is supposed to be snow and ice every year. Why do I allow the occurrence of snow and ice annually still become crisis? So that time it's no longer an environmental or climatic issue. It's now me unable to do the things that will help me navigate that occurrence without it becoming a crisis. Okay, so that's the whole essence of our discussion this afternoon. And then some crises are internal. They occur inside the organization, inside your facilities team, among your customers, those you interact with on a regular basis. And sometimes this crisis that you see inside the organization might also be triggered by outside events, right? Vendors, take for example, a vendor acting in a certain way, not delivering as at when a promise can lead to a crisis that can lead to all kinds of escalation within your organization, because customers expect certain things to be done. If you are not able to do them, that can lead to reactions that can be termed to be crisis situations. Internal risk cannot always be violent acts such as assault. It could also come in the form of threatening emails or unwanted deliveries. Another source of internal risk is violence, right? Companies can be under pressure, under staff sites, poorly funded, poorly managed processes, or if there are no processes, they can all trigger internal crisis that can become a problem. Sometimes, stress can build up, and this buildup of stress can become a major source of crisis. And then you have the external crisis. The these are triggered or initiated by external sources, not employees, strangers, visitors, people that come around your organization, or people that just show up. If you've ever encountered, shootings or terrorism or any of those kind of acts, you know that these are acts that can precipitate into crisis very quickly, and not much in terms of response may be in place for such external attacks. So how do we envisage? It's all about having a risk management plan in place. What kind of questions can we ask that can help us to drum up, think up negative scenarios, list them down, and address it in such a way that we have something we have thought of as a way to respond. Usually, a crisis is not that a big issue if you already have a way to deal with it defined within the organization's operating procedures. Aggression, violent or hostile behavior without provocation. Some aggressors will blame their aggression on triggers from what people do or say or don't do or say, right? Sometimes it's just something that is within the individual. Sense of insecurity, inadequacy can lead somebody to start, being aggressive. And it may be verbal, it may be, in the tone of voice, it may be a look, it may be just different things that can lead to aggressive behaviors. And these can also move to an extreme situations where violence are threats or actual performance of actions against somebody. These are taking aggression to another level. That's when it becomes violence. Can be committed by a stranger, a co-worker, a manager, even the owner. Violence does not have male versus female, top bosses versus, it's both ways in every scenario. It's always possible that violence can be played out on both directions. The idea here is before you get to the stressful situations that lead to the crisis that can lead to aggressive behavior and violence, we should have a focus on the right culture. What kind of culture would lead a crisis to generate into aggression and then violence, right? We may not consider violence as a big issue because many people may not have experienced it, but globally speaking, from available statistics, it's actually a big issue because there are so many people in workplaces who don't feel safe at work. They go to work because they have to go to work, but they don't feel safe, right? And sometimes before you get to aggression that is visible, that people can notice, and violence that can be picked up, there is always that underlying threat of violence and aggression that could come in the form of bullying, mail threats, direct threats of violence, any finger pointing, warning that that directly makes somebody feel unsafe in an environment has become a threat, and we should be very conscious of it. We must also consider the damage to the emotional state of the people that witness the event. So sometimes it's between one person and the next person, but then if there's somebody observing, it may also affect that person's emotional state. What if it was me that made that mistake, for example? What if it was me that did whatever that person is being threatened about? What if it is me? That fear, that concern can lead that person to already start feeling broken down, why the action is being done on another person. And when we talk about aggression, crises that come out of aggression and violence and threats, most people think about it in terms of physical, once I lift my fist, once I shout, but it's also possible to have psychological acts, hostile acts, that can undermine people's character. Even very subtle passing of rumors or writing something about somebody that can defame, demean, or derogate that person. They're all acts of violence in their own way, because sometimes they even have stronger impact than the rushing towards someone to shout or to bang a table or to physically assault or abuse the individual. Okay, so this aspect of physical acts of violence, picking up something, smashing things in the office, or even anywhere, basically, that's loss of temper that leads to such rash or irrational behavior. It's not it's not only impacting whoever that is being played out on, but also impacts the person who is acting out and everyone around. Productivity, concentration on the job, being able to focus and get things done well is hampered. Everybody begins to be extra careful, watching their back, less trusting of each other. So a culture of negative sentiments will just become pervasive in the environment. And so it's important that we carefully watch our environment. Let not use that sense of righteous indignation to feel that I can be right in using bullying tactics to get things done. No. It doesn't always work. Sometimes you think you think as the one at the top, how to get things done. If I don't put fear in them, they will not work or do this or do that. What just happened? Am I still in the meeting? Okay, I'm there. Sorry. All right. So don't think that any of such strategies will work for the long term. They can always, give you some temporary reprieve, make it look as if, yes, it's working, somebody is doing well, right? And don't always think that problems will solve themselves. This is a myth. When two employees are, giving themselves, cold shoulders, not talking to each other, third person looking at them like they're their business, they know what they're quarreling about, they'll sort themselves out, right? Sometimes it's, gang up between employees and management. Sometimes it's, all kinds of problems that emanate in an organization should be talked about, right? It's not good to ignore them. That feeling of, oh, this is not my business, is not going to help anybody, not going to help the organization, not going to help the individual, not going to help anybody, both the players in it and the bystanders in it, right? Don't also think that it's not possible to prevent violence or any kind of crisis. It's always possible to, proactively put cultural measures in place that ensures people can talk, to ensure that people don't build up negative sentiments for too long, because that's something that normally happens. Even if people don't get aggressive or violent, or they don't come out to speak, they can be building up those negative sentiments, and that's something we need to watch out for, right? Because nothing good ever comes out of violence. That's according to Martin Luther. Escalation, defined as a rapid increase or an increase in intensity, right? When it comes to workplace violence, crisis, aggression, and the rest, intensity can increase when we begin to read meanings to things that are said or done or not said or not done, right? Over time, everybody have one belief or the other, and they need to take actions to put pressure on the next person to act in a way that conforms to their expectations. Okay, we talked about threats. Sometimes people, try to get things done, try to get others to behave certain ways by, by bullying, by stalking. You may be showing unwarranted interest in somebody, trying to find faults in what the person is doing, spying. Sometimes it's even a positive, negative approach where you're trying to give things, trying to mentor slave somebody by take this, so that you can get into the person's head and begin to wind the person to behave in ways that you expect them to, or that you want them to. When people begin to feel uncomfortable in the workplace, they start having absenteeism, come to work less, make excuses as often as possible. Some people actually start breaking down, start becoming ill, going to hospital frequently. So even if, we are not yet in situations where you don't have crises like real injuries, there are mental injuries that are going on within the workplace that needs to be picked up, because it's from the little things that the big things happen, right? So we may not have experienced, people hurting themselves or killing each other at work, at least not in our environment, not very common in our environment, but it's a reality that we should not allow little disagreement, little aggression and violence precipitate into something very serious. So what we're talking about here is do not ignore. Ignore behavior is condoned behavior, right? We should not ignore when a behavior is negative and can lead to a bigger problem. Sometimes you probably don't think it will lead to a bigger problem. Some of these behaviors can start very subtly, and you think it's going to get better. Over time, the frequency increases, the intensity increases, and before you know what's happening, hatred is actually being built in the minds of people. Some exhibit negative behaviors, slamming of doors, crying, sulking, having temper tantrums, just basically creating a negative and unconducive environment for colleagues. Sometimes it's a response to something unspoken from an aggressor. Sometimes it is an aggressive behavior in itself, playing defenseless and trying to be manipulative by crying and expressing sober emotions frequently, threatening depression and suicide, and saying things to get people to soften up, to play along with you, or else, that kind of thing. So those are all part of, crisis. These are all part of attitudinal issues that needs to be looked at in the workplace. And then you have emotional abuse that are intended to degrade or humiliate, right? Causes emotional pain and isolation of the victim. Can occur in many forms. Actually, it's something that whatever is abusive, whatever creates exclusion, segregation, discrimination, undermines somebody's reputation, sabotage somebody's work, take credit for somebody's work, whatever pushes somebody to the edge, makes the person unable to come forward or to participate, are all part of emotional abuse in the workplace. And this can lead to anxiety. They can lead to stresses that can bring out negative, emotions in the individuals if they are not checked or looked into or taken care of. And then, of course, when absenteeism, tardiness, confusion, and distraction start setting in, you start seeing poor performance from the individual. And before you know what's happening, there is, there's a blowover, and that can become a problem for everybody, including those who felt it wasn't their problem before, right? Now you become a witness to something really serious because you felt, it wasn't my business. I don't really care whether this person is happy or not. Now, we all come to work and we want to work together as colleagues, but we all come from homes, right? And there are certain things that play out at home that we carry as baggage into the work environment, right? So when you see somebody being abusive, aggressive, violent, creating all kinds of emotional blackmail or negative, creating negative, experiences for others in the workplace, there are chances that the person is having issues from the home front. Whether nuclear or extended family or friends or other circles that they belong to, right? And then sometimes you begin to observe such people, receiving calls, becoming troubled, start panicking, sweating inside the conditioning office, unable to concentrate, and you are the employee, you're probably sitting beside somebody and you don't know there's a crisis brewing. You don't know how to intervene. Most of us in the workplace try to be formal, try to stay on the path of, I stay on my lane, he has his work to do and so on and so forth. But a crisis is brewing. Some come to work, with injuries and tell you how an accident happened, how I cut my finger while cooking or whatever. They may not necessarily tell you the whole story of what's happening because nobody wants to be opening up about such issues. But then the work is being affected. Their reactions to people in the workplace is a reflection of what is happening at home. Some are violent at home and bring that violence to the workplace. Some are receiving violence at home and bring that anxiety, that fear, that stress, that depression that comes from the unfair treatment they're getting at home. They bring it to the workplace, and then they begin to lash out and begin to be negative towards any people who represent, certain attitudes or certain demographic or certain stereotypes that aligns with their aggressor back home or wherever they are coming from. So some of the situations that we should watch out for at the workplace to prevent this kind of crisis from blowing over: how we reprimand and terminate people. People can become easily aggressive and violent when you criticize them, when you do appraisals and you are brash or rash and crude in the way you throw out the negative criticism. And so that's why, as departmental heads, we need to be conscious of underlying factors that might trigger crisis situations when we are doing this. We'll still do our job. We'll still give the appraisal, but we'll be more humane, more positive in the approach. We'll get the person to understand, the basis or the rationale for the conclusions we are reaching about them and their performance at work, right? So that we do not, exacerbate the issue, just, create a blowover in the minds of the individual. And then, of course, money can be a big issue. You can be earning so much or so little, but we spend differently. Some people spend the money they've not earned already. So by the time the salary comes, they are already depressed that the money is going into repayment of debts, for example. They become irritated, they become anxious, they become edgy. They're looking for opportunities to cut corners, to cover up. And this can become a problem for the organization, especially if it becomes pervasive as a culture within the organization. It needs to be looked at so we don't overlook it. And then when bereavement comes, of course, we cannot do without bereavement. Once in a while, somebody leaves, passes to the great beyond, as we say. There's that sense of loss. Not everybody can appreciate what the person in the circumstance is going through. The least we can do is show understanding. We don't understand fully because we are not there. We are not the ones. We don't share the experiences that person had with whoever has passed on. So what we basically want to do is show some compassion, accommodate them as much as possible, be as encouraging as possible, so that you can manage, because if somebody has that kind of issues and the person is falling into depression and becoming sad, and all you can remember is job that needs to be done and done well, you don't care whatever you are dealing, go and deal with your stuff wherever you are and come back and get your job done. We can become the ones that are creating the triggers for this crisis that go on in people's mind that can make them begin to act negatively. So we should be conscious of these as co-workers, as managers, as leaders in the workplace. Perceived slights. Often a person has a belief that the world and everyone in it is against them. And this is a real situation. You have taken experiences from other environments, brought it to the work environment, done things that are negative, right? Done things that are not acceptable, against rules. Your appraisal has been poor, your performance has been poor. And then when it is told to you, you begin to lash out and complain and see it as being witch-hunted. Every time I hear somebody says, "Oh, I'm being witch-hunted," somebody else was taken up instead of me. Somebody got this, somebody got that instead of me. The question I normally ask myself, often I'll ask you if you come to me with that kind of issue is, has it always been like this? Has everyone always been like this? How have you coped between, from whenever you have been in that situation till now? Because if you are not able to pick out where you change, the experiences that happen to you, that coincides with this poor performance or this assessment of poor performance, right? You may not exactly know where you participate in your own crisis, in your own issues. Because it's possible that you're dealing with something domestically, it's affecting your job, your performance is now poor, but the team is used to you doing well. They don't understand what is happening to you. And so they become critical of your performance and your behavior, right? But instead of you thinking of what is happening to you and seeing how it affects your work and your relationship with others, you begin to push back, you begin to pass the buck, you begin to blame people around you for having the problem, for being the ones that are, creating an issue for you, right? And this aspect is actually very difficult to catch. Abroad, they will say, go and see a psychologist, right? Or a psychiatrist, or somebody who will sit you down and start asking questions, probing questions. It's not very common around us. We are at a very primary level when it comes to medical and well-being management. So we know of a pharmacist, we know of a chemist or a drugstore, we know of a hospital or clinic where we take medications and treatment for physical ailment. But when it comes to real emotional, psychological, mental issues, almost everybody don't know where to go unless it has gone too far, where it has now escalated into situations of someone being tied up and taken to a psychiatric hospital. This person has lost it. But we are walking around from day to day in the workplaces, in the homes, in everywhere we interact with momentary flashes of mental, sanity or insanity, and these are, they can create crisis situations that we, the individual involved in it, does not identify, so we cannot deal with. And those who are around are still applying a rational mindset, a way of assessment of situations and response to a situation that is normal and rational to that individual. That can result in a flash or a blowback. The secret of crisis management is not good versus bad, it's preventing the bad from getting worse. Okay, conflict dangers can become an issue when a disagreement escalates. Allowing bottled up feelings and unresolved conflict to escalate has the potential to become a dangerous incident. So those feelings that are not expressed, somebody did not greet you good morning in the morning because it's concerned that He has not brushed his mouth, he's not cleaned his mouth. He doesn't want you to smell a bad odor. So he keeps his mouth shut, sees you and moves on. And then you come in thinking this person has something in his mind. He always greets me every day. I wonder why he didn't greet me today, right? And then you take that, you hold it as one, and then during a meeting, you do a suggestion, and the person says, oh, I don't think so. I think we should consider it this way. This person is attacking me, it's killing my ideas, trying to take away my shine. You are counting it as two. And so you continue like that. You are building up and building up and building up reasons in your mind as to why somebody is against you. This is exactly how things build up into dangerous incidents. And then you begin to think, what can I do to show this person that I am this, or to fight back, or to give him back his treatment that he's given me, and so on and so forth. That is, and much of the conflicts we deal with, the crises we deal with, are not expressed, are not discussed, are not resolved. You end up with something that simmered for so long. In fact, many people have concluded that, oh, my boss doesn't like me because he feels threatened, that I know this, oh, that I'm very this, that I'm very that. You're just, making an assumption. So this person doesn't like me because I'm from this tribe. I'm not from that tribe. Those are not the real issues. The real issues is that there are things that have happened to the individuals, domestically, externally, from their background, from where they're coming from, that has been brought in, that have created certain changes or make certain adjustments in reaction and behavior to those in the workplace. And then when that becomes a situation of the other party not knowing why, because of course nobody knows what's going on in your mind, it begins to count against you. You begin to count against this person. Counter actions can begin to lead to crisis. So most of the crises we're talking about here in this lesson are not even expressed, not even discussed, not even resolved. So how do we start picking them? How do we start trying to act on them? So that's the main thing. A trigger can be anything. A trigger can be anything. And because we don't know what can be these triggers, we tend to just move on as if we know what's going on. We don't know. I want to tell you, you have done something wrong. And then I decide to wait until you walk into a room with many people in there, and then I loudly discuss with you, reprimand you, maybe raise my voice at you to say, I might feel justified that, oh, that's my way of punishing you. I know that it's going to affect you, right? But that can trigger aggressive behavior in the next person. So it's important that we are conscious. We should be conscious of how we act when it comes to relating with people. Okay, and then many people don't know when they first started thinking of physically acting, moving to strike someone, physically shouting or banging tables. It starts as a mental thought. It builds up and builds up until you get to that flashpoint, and then violence actually occurs. Okay, so it's discussion, it's conversations, it's thoughts, it's unexpressed or unresolved concerns and conflicts and disagreements that builds up to that flashpoint. So once you get to the flashpoint, if everyone who are part of a crisis really sit back and give it a reflective thought, they will realize that there are some points in the build-up that if they are taking a separate or different kind of action, it would have been different. The outcome would have been different, but they didn't because they weren't thinking, and that's normal. We are all like that. We will not be able to figure out exactly what is creating the thought pattern. We have to be schooled, be educated, be trained in how to catch ourselves in thinking, to be able to know that this is a negative thought. Why am I thinking this thought, right? How can I take care of this kind of negative thoughts? If you sense something or witness something, say something. This should be a rule in every organization. Say something. However, you should say it with politeness. You say it without having an axe to grind in the matter. You just want to express an observation in a very polite and humble and respectful way, hoping that you can contribute to a solution, right? Awareness means understanding that workplace violence can impact anyone in any work setting and across all levels of employment. So it's not something that one can say doesn't exist. And because of the way I've explained this build up to the crisis, people crisis in the workplaces, you can see that it's all the way from subtle to really physically violent or aggressive, right? So there's a build up, there's something, and then there's a culture that allows that build up, okay? You know what causes violence and some warning signs to be aware of. What should you do in case where you may see something alarming, right? So what should be your response? Note areas of concern. A disruptive coworker who throws temper tantrums will be considered a lower level area of concern, right? So this is something that you probably just say, oh, it's just him, it's just who he is. It's not affecting anybody. That's how he responds or reacts to things. Someone who is not who disrespects authority, who says negative things, who says things that they shouldn't say. They're not accepted as a culture or norm of the organization. Most of the time you ignore it, but you shouldn't. Discuss it. Notice the behavior. If it becomes a pattern, let's have that discussion, right? And this can become a way of you showing that you care. Let there be a genuine concern. If you don't feel in the best frame of mind to show that concern or to help that person get out of the issue, then you go to someone higher, a manager, a HR manager, right? There are people who are responsible for making sure that the company have the right policies, the right behavior. People who are it's the buck stops on their desk if things go awry or go smoothly, right? So you talk about it. If you can't address it with the individual, at least report it. And when it becomes more serious, you have to go formally. It's no longer a case of me talking to a manager to say, this is what I observed. It's not going to be, you need to document it to be sure that nobody misses it, okay? Because at the end of the day, it can become everybody's problem very quickly. Initially, it didn't look like everybody's problem. It didn't look like your problem. It didn't look like something that will ever affect you. It could even be coming from somebody you feel you like and the person likes you, against someone else, and you're observing and you didn't do anything about it, right? So it's very important that we don't ignore, don't overlook, even if it's not happening to us. Be proactive. We should also always, as an organization, have a strategy of what to do in a worst case scenario. Workplace violence prevention programs, policies and training programs like how to educate people to recognize such violent situations and crises are important. And the need for putting this kind of program in place may not be obvious, but as the organization gets bigger and bigger, and as such instances or incidences start cropping in, you can begin to invest such time in developing the policies to guide the workplace. The whole idea is an organization should have a picture of what the workplace should be, the kind of collaboration the team should have, the kind of interaction, the kind of friendship that should exist within the work environment should be pre-understood, and that will begin to guide the kind of programs for training, kind of policies and procedures for how work is done, on how people interact, and especially the kind of emergency procedures we have in place. So we talk about risk management, emergency preparedness, and business continuity programs. We incorporate processes for identifying crisis situations from among the team and incorporate them into the policy that we prepare for the organization. Because we can easily just forget about people's issues and take our emergency procedures to focus on power failure, maintenance failure, environmental and climatic hazards or disasters and so on, and not have, aspects that deal with, crises that come out of human behavior, human interactions. Once you have the documentation and those processes and procedures in place, it's also important to have a training around them, talk together as a team, and see what understanding we can share. Because once we have a shared understanding on what the culture should be, how to identify issues and bring them up, we'll have a better results, a better collaborative efforts to achieve the kind of cultural environment that we want to create for our workplaces. So that's our lunch hour for today. Let me see who has a question from those in the session. Okay. For the Max-Migold team, looking at the other platforms where people have joined us, can you please also, check for questions and drop them in the chat here. If there's anyone here that has a question, can you please just raise your hand and I'll recognize you to speak.
No questions on YouTube for now, sir.
Okay. LinkedIn, Facebook. Okay. I hope this has been a good use of your lunch hour. I want to thank you for being here. All of the lunch hour series we've taken so far are on our YouTube channel. So just go to Max-Migold on YouTube. You will not only find all of our lunch hours, you'll find extensive array of classrooms that I've taken in all topics in facility management that you can study for free on YouTube. Take time and browse through our YouTube channel. Connect with us on other social media. If you're on Facebook, if you are on LinkedIn, connect with me, Paul Erubami, and like and follow Max-Migold LinkedIn page and all of our social media. We look forward to communicating with you and having other sessions as we go on. Thank you and see you again next Thursday. Bye.
All right, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. This is really apt. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.